Good afternoon, dear friends, and welcome back to NYC Concierge Explores. Today we're going to visit actually one of my favorite museums in all of New York, and you know the assortment and variety of art, galleries, museums is plentiful here in Manhattan, but this I feel is really a crown jewel for many, many reasons. And here we are at the Frick Collection on the corner of 5th Avenue and 70th Street, the former mansion of Henry Clay Frick is one of the classic examples of old masters. So think Goya, El Greco, Constable, Gainsborough, Whistler, and Italian Renaissance paintings and sculpture, etc. inside. In 1913, if you can imagine, Mr. Frick paid $5 million to create this almost block-long mansion, particularly to house his art collection and his residence. The rooms inside actually were designed and situated particularly for the paintings and artwork that he collected over decades during his career. Henry Clay Frick, by the way, was born in Pennsylvania in 1849 and became an industrialist and ran one of the largest coke manufacturing companies and steel company in America, joining other names like Carnegie and other famous names like Morgan, and eventually moved to New York City in 1905, where he then built this mansion, particularly for his art collection. When he died in 1919, he left the art and the mansion and the collection to the city to form the Frick Collection Museum, which his wife attended to. The Frick Collection also has one of the world's renowned art history reference library centers, which, interestingly enough, Henry Frick's daughter, Helen, was the director of this until her death in 1985 at the age of 96. Some other interesting facts of Mr. Frick. In 1911, Mr. and Mrs. Frick were booked on the Titanic together with J.P. Morgan, but Mrs. Frick sprained her ankle in Italy, so they had to cancel the voyage. So, in fact, they were not on the ill-fated Titanic. They survived. They returned to New York, where they continued to live in the mansion here on 5th Avenue between 70th and 71st. The art collection thrived, as well as the museum, which started in 1935 up into its current date. So if you're in New York and you're a lover of art and old classics, I highly recommend a visit to the Frick Collection, dear friends, on 5th Avenue and 70th Street, right here in the heart of Manhattan. Thank you, dear friends.
While visiting the old masters inside the Frick Collection, it is also an opportunity to visit one of the famous Gilded Era mansions located in New York, and particularly on 5th Avenue in the neoclassical style. When Mr. Frick built the mansion for his collection, it was then his permanent residence from 1912 to 1913 when he moved in. The building was designed by Thomas Hastings of Carrere and Hastings, and Mr. Frick lived in the residence until his death in 1919. He willed the house and all of its contents, including art, furniture, decorative objects, as a public museum. His widow, Adelaide Howard Childs Frick, however, retained the right of residence and continued living in the mansion with her daughter Helen until Mrs. Frick died in 1931, after which the conversion of the house into a public museum began. The garden, which faces 5th Avenue, was extended and included 3 important magnolia trees. One is a saucer magnolia on each side, and then near the flagpole is a star magnolia. Further expansions occurred as well. It is still one of the most important small museums in the world, and again, the crown jewel of old masters right here in Manhattan on Fifth Avenue. Thank you, dear friends.